Welcome back to Foothills Firewood, guys. My name's Britt, and today we're talking firewood bunkers. Am I going to do them again next year? Stick around and let's find out. All right, as we are headed up to the front yard to check out these firewood bunkers or bins, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a bit of a spoiler alert and let you know that it has not been all sunshine and rainbows for me. In fact, I am really on the fence about whether I'm going to do it this way next year or not. A lot of pros, a lot of cons, and we're going to talk about both of those things today. Let me show you what we got out here. So the first pro that I'm going to talk about is the obvious one. The entire reason everybody switches over to piling instead of stacking, and that is time savings and not having to stack wood. Let's just be honest here. Anybody that does firewood knows the value in being able to get a pile of wood to dry without having to stack it and touch every stick 100 times. So that's pro number one. That's pretty obvious, and I can't hate on that. I don't have any qualms with that. I wish that was as easy as it was for me. Pro number two, oddly enough, even after I show you guys some of this wood, this stuff did dry really nice. I do have woods here behind me. You know, I'm probably 25 feet off of the wood line. And then of course, everything else is kind of wide open in my yard. So I was very happy with how it dried. I did not split pieces in half to moisture check them at the very bottom, but I got a good, feel for what dry wood feels like, what it sounds like, how it carries. And I'm very happy with this. The top stuff I moisture tested, and probably a couple rungs down I moisture tested, and everything looked great. So I was happy with how it dried. Now, do the pros outweigh the cons? I'll be honest with you guys. I'm on the fence about that. Part of me feels like I'm going to do this one more time with some differences. And then part of me is like, if I keep hand loading out of this thing, I'm one truckload closer every time to just saying, let's just go back to stacking. And let me tell you why. So over here we have the mixed hardwood bunker that is pretty well almost sold. Maybe, I don't know, 2 truckloads in that. And then over here we have the oak bunker that is pretty well sold, minus maybe a truckload and a quarter in this one. So I did sell this wood, and that was all fine and dandy. However, I've actually already burnt 2 totes. This is probably another tote between, this little bit of oak right here and this little bit of mixed hardwoods of just stuff that I absolutely could not sell. And I'll show you why. That's what we're looking at. We had fungus and some mold. And to be honest with you, I would find a piece of wood that had mold on it, and the piece right beside of it would be bone dry. So I don't know if certain sticks of wood just had the propensity to, mold already prior to even going in here. And I'll show you why I might think that. But it didn't seem to largely affect. Now, I know how mold works, and spores and inoculation. So it's just not ideal for there to be any mold in here. But again, I heat with wood. So this pile right here will get burned. It's not the end of the world. It's just not something that I would ever be proud to sell, and would not sell unless somebody just wanted a really reduced rate and essentially said they'd be totally fine, for campfire wood with this. But that is kind of where we're at right now. And that is an obvious con. The biggest con that I have found is not loading the bunker. That was the easy part. Drying the wood, that was the easy part. Getting the wood out of the bunker, not easy at all. So a lot of these bunkers that I built and that other people are building, Jeremiah and the 608s built one, Jack up at Log Cabin Firewood has built one. And what I'm referring to are the pallets here on the ground, and then these T-posts getting hammered into the ground and then strapped with this galvanized fencing. So in doing this, there's no real way to get this wood out without handling it piece by piece. I have a tractor, and I understand it's not a skid steer. I could probably push into a pile and pick up a load of wood with the tractor, but I have to have something solid to push against, like some mafia block or some sort of concrete barrier or a brick wall in the background, and preferably concrete pad on the bottom. So there's no real way for me to push into this pile without blowing out the other side and just getting scoops of wood. So what's that leave me to do? hand load every single piece. So I didn't hand load it in there by stacking it. I dumped it in there, but I got to hand load it out. Well, the problem with hand loading it out is that if there is going to be any degree of mold, especially to the extent that I had, which was not, you know, rampant, but still there, then I have to inspect each piece, right? So I'm not just standing in front of a stack of wood and launching it into the truck. So what used to take my wife and I 7 to 10 minutes to throw a stacked load of firewood into the back of a 6-foot bed truck, now we're out here for 30 minutes just kind of going through it. And she'll look at me, she'll say, hey, is this piece okay? Is this piece okay? Is this too much? Does this have too much mold or whatever? And we find ourselves out here for 30 and 45 minutes sometimes just to get, you know, a face cord of wood put in the trailer. And granted, the wood looks good once it gets there. It's dry. I'm happy. I'm proud to give it to the customer. They are giving me good feedback with everything. No concerns in that regard. But on the time savings front, which initially would go, you would think, into the pro column, I am now struggling with, you know, allowing that to occur. I feel like it almost needs to go into the con column. And let me explain. When we stack rows like we've done for years, and this, my wife actually brought this up. When we stack rows like we've done for years, you know, we've got a 4-foot tall row, 8 foot long. That's a face cord. And her and I can literally grab armfuls of that wood and throw into the back of my truck in less than 10 minutes. I'm talking about probably 5 to 7 minutes. If we're really hustling, 7 minutes. And we don't have to pick through it. None of it. It's all pretty well good and dry. And well, I should say it's definitely dry, but it's all pretty well clean without any dirt, mold, mildew, any of that. So there's no picking through it. You just grab and go and you're finished. That's a ton of time savings in comparison to how we're doing it now, which is, you know, uncovering mold, putting it in a pile for us to burn, then going back and finding 2 or 3 pieces to toss into the truck. Again, I don't know if I can mitigate this by doing a couple things, and I'll mention those things, but those are my problems with it currently. I'm going to walk you guys over to my wood pile, and I'm going to explain to you that what I mentioned earlier about woods just having the, you know, the predisposition or the propensity to mold before I ever even put them in there. And I'll explain, you know, why I think that. Even looking at some of these logs now, all these logs, most all of these logs came off the exact same job, and they're all white oak or red oak, pretty much bar none. So with that being said, they're all stacked in the same place. They're all on skids off the ground. So they all should kind of be in the same realm of what they should look like, how they're drying in regards to what a log can do, you know, in log form. But let me show you guys a couple things. I'll spin this thing around here. So here we have a stick of white oak, and it looks totally fine. I mean, you're seeing some discoloration there on the sapwood. That stuff's rock hard. There's no issues with that at all. More white oak. Same thing. That's just coloring. There's nothing wrong with that. I could probably wipe that off. Pretty well the same thing here. We're going to check out some of the red oak. Again, guys, this stuff, you know, you get to start seeing some of this sapwood. It's still rock hard. It might have some, you know, degree of inoculation that starts, but this is a nice stick of red oak. That's going to cut up nice. I'll make bundles out of that, and I will make bunker wood out of that. Let me find a piece, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. Now we're talking about same stick of oak here, but we're looking a little punky on the edges. Same thing up here. Same stick of oak, but we're starting to get that spalt up there. Let me see if I can find another one that really makes sense. And I don't know if, oh, here's a prime example right here. When I put every stick out here, I would have never put this stick out here with this mushroom or mold or fungus all over it. I wouldn't have done that. I would have separated it. So when I put this out here, this was a totally fine piece of wood, and look at it. The heartwood's okay, but the sapwood's terrible. And it's just got, well, this looks all right here. And it's just got this fungus growing all the way down it. Again, came from the same job. Right above it, no fungus. no fungus, no fungus. All of these. And I'm not picking stuff that's on the top of the pile, you know, that's just been sitting in the sun. This is all stuff that's kind of central to the pile, if anything. So part of me wonders, you know, if the tree was dying or if it was sick or if there were issues with it. And, you know, it was already predisposed to rot anyway. And it just ended up doing so in the bunker. Another con, and this is just not anything that I can really do much about unless I'm going to try to cover this whole bunker, which I don't think is the answer or would be feasible, is all of these leaves up here are falling right into my bunker. Luckily, we've had a very dry fall, so I haven't had any issues, but the second it rains, all these leaves just hold this moisture and it just sits here and soaks on this wood. Now, if it's dry wood, it shouldn't matter. It'll be wet when the leaves are on it, but then you load it into a truck, let it sit out in the sun for an afternoon, and that's all just surface moisture, and it just comes, you know, back out of the wood. That shouldn't be an issue. It's still annoying, and it wouldn't happen if I had rows that were covered with either a tarp or, you know, sheets of tin or something like that. So even down here at the very bottom of my oak, I'm looking around, I'm still getting just bark peeling off, nice checked edges. I'm happy with how it dried. I am not happy with how it finished in regard to the mold. Let me turn you, here's a good view of the mold on this side. See, some of it just looks not even mushrooms, just this white mildew. And then of course there are some mushrooms there. And all that stuff just gets stacked over to the side and that'll get burnt by me. There's another one right there. I can tell you without certainty, if I didn't heat with wood, the bunker would have been a bust for me. Even if I had to pull a cord of wood out, I don't really look at that as a cord of wood lost. Again, it will provide heat for me and my family because we heat with wood. But like I said, if I were just selling wood, all I would see would be a fair amount of product that would not be sellable. So what can I do to mitigate this? Well, I have a couple of thoughts, and I'm not sure which way I'm going to go yet, but hear me out. I think now that I have a conveyor, and it's not working yet, we've got neighbor Chase hooked me up with some tires. Boom, I got to get some tires on there. And this thing has an extra link or two on one side, so it's getting bound up. I need to mark it with chalk and loosen it up and kind of run it around and figure out what the issue is. But with the conveyor, could I pile cones that would operate differently than what I had? Maybe. That's kind of my thought process. The cones naturally peak and will shed water a lot better than what I had, which was a little bit of a mound. I dumped everything in there with the tractor as high as I could get, and then I would knock it down and I would put a little more on there. And again, it was a nice round mound. So would 4 peaked cones do better out there in regards to shedding water and, you know, allowing the wood to better dry? I gotta say maybe. And that might be my only hope at trying this one more time. I'm still on the fence of whether I'm going to do it. I've got probably two more truckloads of mixed hardwoods to get out of there and one more truckload of oak, which I could probably do this week if it weren't Thanksgiving. So I'll probably get that stuff cleaned up by the end of the week or next week. And then I'm going to be faced with some challenges and some decisions that need to be made. Are we going to pull the wolf ridge over here, make quick work of that huge pile and have it all in there by January and drying throughout the entire year? Or are we going to have to pivot and start stacking again? I don't want to stack, but I don't want to do what I just did the past 2 months selling this stuff, climbing on I mean, you're talking about one rolled ankle after another. Luckily, we were both fine. I didn't hurt myself. My wife didn't hurt herself the few times that she helped me. But, you know, it's an accident waiting to happen, climbing on those piles. And there's no way around it. You can kind of walk your way into the pile. You can do that. But sooner or later, you find yourself up on those sticks. So not ideal in that regard. Right now, I'm currently focusing on splitting all my bundle wood. I've got probably 4 cord. I'm going to do probably 4 or 5 more cord. of just bundle wood, so I can have at least kind of 10 to 15 cord to dedicate to the bundle. Now, I may sell a lot more than that in bundles, but at least that'll kind of be out of my hair. And I'm stacking those in totes, putting the totes over by the bunker, kind of leaving it open as to whether or not I'm going to do the piles of bunkers this year, or this coming year. The only other option that I see fit, and I don't like it, is to make these cones with the conveyor and then somehow just tarp kind of like the middle top of the cone. I'm not tarping the entire thing. Possibly like just a 10 by 10 tarp over the cone just to really shed water down to the edges might help, but there's no way. I mean, that thing's probably 40 feet wide, 40 feet long. I don't see any way to tarp that effectively, efficiently, and cost savings. So I know this is not a yes or no. I'm kind of leaving you guys hanging. To be honest with you, I'm thinking about it while I'm talking to you guys. I'm kind of leaving myself hanging. I've got some decisions to make in the next week or two, like I said. And when I make those decisions, I will update you guys. You definitely will be privy. As soon as I know what I'm doing, you'll know what I'm doing. But I wanted to let you guys know this stuff is great for a lot of people, and it may be okay for me, but it's not great for me. So I need to see if I can make okay work, and if not, we got to pivot. So I really appreciate you guys watching this video. I know it was a lot more talking and walking around, a lot less action, but I do thank you for your time. Thank you guys for all the likes, the comments, the shares, and subscribes. And until next time, we're out here having fun. Thanks for watching, and happy Thanksgiving.